Giddy up! Woo!
This is the Cardinal Cowboy Show.
Giddy up! Woo!
Well, Doctor, we are in the studio here. We're live on the Cardinal Cowboy Show. In the studio today, again, a wonderful guest we're excited to have in the house, Dr. Eric Naputi. How you doing, Doctor?
Good, Cowboy. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. I appreciate you. And it seems like there's just so much that needs to be said out there that a lot of people, that's getting harder to do. I made a list.
It is getting harder to do. It's not harder to say it. It's harder to get heard than it's ever been. That's for sure.
Well, I made a list of topics for us to talk about today. And
Okay.
wanted to bounce those off you. I gave you the checklist a little bit before.
Yeah.
Say some of these are pretty hot topics. Number of things that are going on. I mean, the title of this show is talking about the election,
Okay.
and where we're very close now. It's going to be 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Since I know it's on a Tuesday.
2 weeks from today.
And so November 3rd. So that is where we're at with 2 weeks left. And boy, I mean, if I'll jump right into the first one I talked to you about. Boy, I mean, very, very scary for our country. The president of the United States contracted COVID, and that can be really scary when you're considering this is the president of the United States, and for him especially, the fact that they're 2 weeks at that time, 3 weeks, 3.5, 4 weeks
Right.
before the election. Most people are knocked out for a couple weeks with that. In the middle of this, how did that happen? I don't know. We'll get into that discussion, but boy, he bounced back fast.
You know,
Do you have any idea how that happened so readily? I mean, that was.
I mean, of course I do. First of all, you think about this. You got a 74-year-old man who's super stressed out, who is overweight. I mean, all these things that are comorbidities are risk factors, if you will. I mean, he's a healthy guy other than that, though. But he was having an issue with it, and I know exactly what he was doing. I mean, you have to understand. Obviously, you know that we do a lot of work with politicians all over the country, and I'm in D.C. quite a bit doing work, and local here doing work, and et cetera. And President Trump has been using the very similar protocols that we've been recommended from the beginning of this thing, with high-dose zinc, high-dose D3, with amino acid use, with vitamin C. Obviously, he did some pharmaceutical treatments as well, at least what they reported to us that he did. And, he's in the hospital. 3 days later, he's back home and he's back to work. And he was working while he was in the hospital. He had a day that he was under the weather, which, I think people forget that it is flu and cold season. And we forget that there's normal sick that still happens, normal cold, normal flus, normal symptoms. And he bounced back quicker than ever. So, I think it just proves that if a 74-year-old man that's in that category that, once you get COVID, it could, the word on the street is it's going to kill you, which, that's not the case. If you look at the numbers and stats, it doesn't support that at all, even though the mainstream wants you to believe that, to fear you and propagate an agenda. The reality is that he really bounced back quick because he was doing the right thing. So we know that he was doing high-dose zinc. We know that he's doing high-dose vitamin D3. We know that he's doing high-dose C. We know that he's doing IV vitamins as well. So those are the reasons, Cowboy, why he did so well.
Well,
and continues to do well.
And it was rather impressive. It was, I would say, almost amazing because, I mean, he's a go-getter. He wants to keep it going. It's hard to imagine he's actually, 74 years old and of that age, or people are normally settling down, starting to retire. But, I guess that's part of what got the president to where he's at. Where do you go with this COVID stuff? I mean, long list on the list of topics to talk about, but how is it impacting currently the election and what in the discussion there? And you start to listen, are they still getting terribly excited or fearful on both sides? I had somebody who's a counterpart of mine I've worked with for a long time, and she put out posts that say 200,000 deaths. How can there not be any outrage and horror about this? And I start to analyze it, and I go, well, you're lucky that's all there is, based on the fact that they're going to cause more deaths from malnutrition, untreated health sicknesses, alcohol abuse, and drug overdoses, along with what was the primary one? Suicides are out now. So we get into the whole discussion. is this going to affect our election from the perspective of keeping people home?
I think so. I think absolutely it does. And again, we're just having a conversation. And some of these things that we're going to say today, first of all of them backed up with factual data. At least I know everything I'm about to say, and then some is all about factual data. Everything I've said from the beginning has always been about factual data. And there hasn't been one thing that we've talked about since early spring of this year that hasn't come to pass and been true. And one of the things that we talked about was how in October and November around the election is there's going to be some things that are going to be in the news, in the media, are going to scare some folks. And I just today, I pulled up some numbers as of today. Carter, I just wanted to read this to everybody that I put on my phone. I just want to give some quick numbers for everybody. You be the judge of what you think about these numbers, but some quick numbers for everybody. So the United States population is around 330 million people. Total COVID cases is around 8.2 million cases in the U.S. Total COVID deaths is around 220,000, like you said. That means that nationwide you have a 0.025% chance of catching COVID. And you actually have a 0.0007% chance of dying from COVID. But wait a minute, there's more. We're in the state of Missouri, okay? So I want to show you some of Missouri's numbers, all right? So Missouri total population, 6.15 million people. Missouri COVID cases, 164,000 cases. Missouri COVID death, 160 cases, which means your chance of catching COVID in Missouri is 0.027%. And your chance of dying of COVID in Missouri is 0.0004%. But hold on, Cowboy, there's even more. St. Louis population is 2.2 million. The St. Louis COVID case in St. Louis is 28,239 as of this morning. St. Louis COVID deaths is 857 deaths, which means your chances of catching COVID in St. Louis is 0.019%, and your chance of dying of COVID in St. Louis is 0.0004%. But yet, we're still so propagating this fear that, by the way, remember, the flu kills 0.13% of the American population every year. So if you look at the 0.13.
Right.
Okay?
Percent.
Not 0.0004 that we're talking about. Okay? So I get it, and some people are going to comment and say, well, my grandma died of this, or people have died from this. COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 is a real thing. It is a real virus, but it really only affects a certain part of the population. And you know what? If people are scared to go out and vote, they need to look at what's happening really all over the country and all over the world. And the reality is there has not been one reported outbreak of any voting that's happened at all in the United States or anywhere else in the world for that matter since COVID has happened. And we've had lots of elections. We haven't had a presidential election, but we've had lots of elections. And another thing that was brought up at a meeting that I was at this morning that I thought was pretty interesting, just some common sense, because you guys know, that's what we do on social media. We're all about common sense health. And you think about this, Cowboy, Walmart has 1.5 million employees. Amazon has 750,000 employees. Kroger has 500,000 employees. Target, 350,000 employees. Costco has 250,000 employees. That's a total of 3,354,000 total employees still working in the United States. These employees come in contact with thousands of people a day, yet none of these companies are reporting an excess amount of COVID-19 cases, yet small businesses aren't allowed to operate. So there's a double-headed sword with all the stuff that we're talking about. And people are legitimately scared to go out, but based off of numbers that don't, in my opinion, legitimize their fear. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And I do believe that, we talked about how COVID is a real thing. There's no doubt about that. But it's been over-politicized. And many, many doctors will tell you that. Even the reports from the CDC out of the 220,000 people that have died in the United States of COVID, 94% of those folks had something else going on with them. They had 2 to 3 comorbidities.
Comorbidities, yeah. And was it 2.3?
2.3.
Not just one other major health issue, 2.3.
And those comorbidities, by the way, people don't realize this. Those comorbidities, the main ones were high blood pressure, diabetes, cardiovascular problems, and respiratory issues. Like, those are the comorbidities that led to it. But what people don't realize is that, like, for example, if you have those top 4 comorbidities, and I just did a whole workshop on this just the other night. It's on our Facebook feed, if it's still up, that is. And I showed how those comorbidities actually lead to reduction in zinc absorption, reduction in vitamin D3 absorption, which happen to be 2 of the huge forces that are out there that are showing for folks to have high risk factors. And in fact, if you go to our website, which is ericnaputi.com, I would encourage you to go there now. It's ericnaputi.com, and there's a cowboy. There's a sheet there that people can download for free, and it's a sheet that shows people what they can do to help mitigate the risk of getting virus infections, whether it's colds or flus or etc.